The new X5 is nothing short of impressive. It's beautiful, it's sleek, it's modern, it's loaded with a bunch of tech. It's got one of my favorite features, the digital key, and if you know anything about BMW, having a remote starter, of all things, is kind of a big deal. My biggest problem with the BMW X5 isn't the actual car itself. My biggest problem with the X5 is coming out of the pre-facelifted X5, the 2020 to 2023 body style X5, and going into this one like my father is. In debating this question, should I upgrade? Unless you're oozing out money, you probably shouldn't upgrade. However, if you're not upgrading and you're just looking at the BMW X5 for the first time in a while, I'd probably go for it. I'm going to give you some pointers as to what upgrading to the new BMW X5 is going to feel like, and then I'll give you some estimates as far as what the new X5 is probably going to be leasing out for on average for an xDrive 40i. Do me a favor at any point during this video, if you found great value, please consider subscribing or at the very least liking the video because it helps immensely. So starting off with some interior changes, you can see that the BMW X5 has gotten a bit of a facelift, especially with the headlights. We've actually got some cool turn signal indicators with some arrows pointing in the direction that the car is going to be going in. The bumpers are a little bit different. I want to say that I like it, but I really don't. And I don't like how it looks on the M Sport. Before, the M Sport used to really stand out, but now you can barely tell that any change has been made. It really just comes down to the bumpers being painted as opposed to having a black trim going along the bottom. It really is underwhelming, and I kind of prefer the non-M Sport. The back of the car is largely unchanged. I couldn't even notice a difference except for the taillights. How they light up now is a little bit different versus the previous. Believe it or not, the only change that I've noticed to the back is really just how the LED light on the taillight lights up. One of our biggest gripes between me and my father when we were looking at building out a new X5 and we were trying to justify if he should do it or not was the fact that they got rid of jet black, which is actually kind of a big deal for my father because both of his X5s have been jet black and he kind of likes the look of a flat non-metallic black. Kind of pissed off that BMW did that, to be honest. My dad loves punching the gas on his X5 pretty much every single time he leaves work, and especially if I'm outside, he'll rip the gas and you can actually hear the crackle happening, shifting from 1 to 2. And I'm pretty sure that if he upgrades to the new X5 with the extra 40 more horsepower, he's definitely going to feel a change, definitely going to feel a little bit more crackle coming out of that X5. However, is 40 horsepower enough to justify wanting to upgrade? For me, probably not, but if you're coming out of a 350 horsepower going into a 390 horsepower, maybe. We've got a little bit better plug-in hybrid performance. We're going from 26, actually up to 39 miles on a full charge. It takes about 7 hours to charge the battery on a BMW X5 for the plug-in hybrid, and you actually get about 500 total miles range. I watch a lot of Motormouth, the couple that's on YouTube, and they were saying how the new 21 and 22 inch wheel designs are a little bit bouncy in sport mode because of the suspension. Not really a fan of bounciness on any BMW, really. I was watching a bit of the highway assistant being used on another BMW YouTube channel, and actually a BMW dealership out in Washington was showing the technology, how the BMW X5 will actually drive automatically on its own up to a certain point, up to about 85 miles an hour, and it'll track your eyes. So basically, if you take your eyes off of the road, it will actually deactivate after a couple seconds. So it's semi-autonomous, but it's doing a pretty good job keeping control of the BMW while it's going on the highway up to 85. Again, after 85, it doesn't work, and it doesn't really have any semi-autonomous driving features if you're not on the highway. We're getting about 25 miles per gallon combined on the gas model and about 58 miles per gallon E if you're driving the hybrid. Believe it or not, one of my biggest problems with the X5 is the interior. Now, if you're somebody that's coming into the X5 for the first time, you'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? The interior is great. Yeah, it's great. But if you're coming out of the previous one, you're probably going to have a lot of problems with the dashboard. Specifically, what I'm talking about is the fact that the BMW X5's new dash doesn't have physical climate control buttons. Everything got moved to the infotainment system. Now, I gotta say, the infotainment system is pretty cool. It's got these dual displays set up in a whole brand new curved style display, which is actually humongous, and it shows a lot of information, especially on this new iDrive 8. There's a lot of customizations, a lot of different views, a lot of different angles you can set up on this thing. The leather was especially shocking. Initially, while I was watching one of the reviews, I thought, oh, wow, the premium leather option looks really, really nice. Nice and perforated, looks really, really high quality. And then they said that this is actually the synthetic one, the SensaFit. And I was blown away because I had something like this in my 5 Series where it was perforated and it looked a lot more expensive than it was, but it wasn't even actually real leather. A lot of buttons, a lot of trim pieces got refined, but the one thing I didn't like that they refined it a little bit too much, was the gear selector lever. I'm not a fan of the actual lever. I wish that they would have had just a previous joystick-like shifter from the previous X5 and the 3 Series and whatnot in this X5. I'm actually really annoyed by it. If there was a way to actually pay more money to get the old version of the shifter back, I'd literally pay more money to get the old shifter back. The head-up display has some new features on it. It's going to show a little bit more information. And according to Car Confections, apparently the BMW X5 for 2024 has the lowest decibel rating in the interior of any of the luxury vehicles and any of the luxury SUVs that they've tested. And it's almost 1 decibel less than the 2023 X5. It's a couple decibels less than the Lexus RX 350, which is huge because I thought Lexus would be the quietest interior of all of them. A problem for a lot of people is the fact that they got rid of the third row. Don't know why they did it. Even though a lot of in-stock BMW X5s didn't come with a third row, a lot of us were building out BMW X5 would say the third row or the space saver spare is just kind of a stupid idea, if you ask me, just a ploy really to sell more X7s, because at this point they probably aren't selling nearly as many as they thought. We've got about 1,700 BMW X5s in the United States at the moment, which is actually less than its competition, with the GLE coming in with about 2,000 or more units and the Audi Q7 about 2,000 or more units, according to cars.com data from today. Trim by trim, we're seeing about 500 S-Drive 40i, 800 X-Drive 40i, 20 X-Drive 50es, 300 M60i's, and about 50 X5Ms. I'll be honest with you, most rookies go into the BMW dealership thinking that they're going to buy a BMW in stock. A lot of us experienced BMW people, what we like to do is build out BMWs from the factory, especially on X products, because they take the least amount of time. We typically go in with a build. We usually have a client advisor we've already been working with, and we'll give them the build, and they'll order the X5 for us. And it typically takes about a month to 6 weeks, depending on where you live in the United States. And that's probably going to be the best way to want to shop around for an X5. The S-Drive's starting MSRP is about $65K, while the X-Drive 40i's is about $68K. The hybrid X-Drive 50e about $73K, the M60i at about $90K, and the X5M at about $122K. These are substantial differences versus what the X5's pricing was like in 2020. I remember my father's build at the time was about $65,000. This is in 2020. He forwarded me over a build of the one that he was considering of building out from the factory, and the least that he could come up with was $72,945 on the X5 that he built out on BMW USA. I'd like you to shoot for about 5% off of the MSRP if you're looking to build one out from the factory. If you can shoot for more, that's definitely awesome. But I think 5% is probably a responsible number to be dishing out here. That's before any and all incentives, which there are some right now, especially if you're looking to buy or lease. There is $1,000 credit coming from BMW Now, there is $1,500 also available if you're a loyal BMW customer. However, just focus on the fact that there's $1,000 being dished out in pretty much any offer you're seeing advertised at this point. We've got a 51% residual at 36 months for 12,000 miles a year and a 0.00180 money factor, which seems a little bit lower than what it was a couple months ago. I know BMW dealerships were charging at this point over the 0.002 mark. This 0.00180 money factor comes out, it translates to about a 4.32% APR on the lease. Now, plugging this all into the lease calculator and assuming that you've subscribed and hit the like button, and assuming you're giving just your inception fees due at start, so your first payment, acquisition fee, doc fee, registration, all that stuff due at start, at full MSRP, we'd be talking about $1,160 per month. However, if I recalculate this at $69,245, which I suggested, which is about 5% off of the MSRP, the payment drops down to $1,050 per month. Not terrible. I was going to say, though, I would say it's probably terrible, but most X5s were going out around $65,000 or $66,000 before. So the payment difference would be about $200 less, but relative to a lower MSRP. I feel like because the MSRPs have risen quite a bit, we're having a little bit of a sticker shock when it comes to the lease payments that people we're coming out of and going into now. We're seeing at least $200 or $300 differences, just apples to apples, never mind not getting a good enough discount. Now, a comparable GLE 350 with a similar MSRP, actually the same MSRP, just using their same program, that's coming out to about $1,240. And similarly on the Audi Q7, same setup, same everything, it's coming out to about $1,060. They've got a lot more incentives available on the Audi Q7. This is super, super important. If you're looking to get the very best possible deal on an X5, the best way to do it is preparing your build on BMW USA, taking a screenshot and sharing the build code. Now, what you're going to want to do is compile an email and get all the email addresses of all dealerships within like 100 miles of you. You're going to try to find a sales manager's email address or just send it to the general email address of the dealership and say, to the sales manager. What you're going to do is you're going to tell them what you're looking for in your X5. You've built it out from the factory, and what you're trying to do is shop around for the very best deal on it. You're looking to get this number using all these data points that you've collected from this video based off of an estimate that you could have made from whatever estimate I just gave you, or doing it on a lease calculator for yourself. So if you're looking to get, a $75,000 X5 and you're hoping to get it for, $950 a month, you want to blast this out with your build to a bunch of dealers and see which dealership bites. Don't go to the local dealership expecting to have something be in stock and leave that day paying whatever that you thought that you were going to end up paying just based off of some simple calculations. Lastly, you guys, in the description below, you're going to find resources to help you. Lastly, you guys, if you found this information valuable, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.